Mystic man, such a mystic man. I'm just a mystic man. Mystic man. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I don't drink no champagne. Don't drink no champagne. No, I don't. And I'm a dope. I'm a dope. No, I'm a dope. I don't sniff them cocaine. Don't sniff no brain. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. No, I don't. I'm a dope. Don't take a morphine. Don't take no morphine. Dangerous. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I don't take no heroin. Don't take no heroin. Cause I'm a man of the past and I'm living in the present and I'm walking in the future, stepping in the future. Man of the past and I'm living in the present and I'm walking. Such a mystic man. Got to be a mystic man. Mystic man. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. Eat up your fried chicken. Eat up your fried chicken. Not licking it. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. Eat up them frankfurters. Eat up the frankfurters. Darling, I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. Eat down the hamburger. Eat up. Can't do that. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. I'm a dope. Pink, pink, blue, yellow, green soda. Soda pop. Soda pop. Oh, I'm a man of the past. And I'm living in the present. And I'm walking in the future. Stepping in the future. Man of the past. And I'm living in the present. And I'm walking. Keep on walking. Man of the past. And I'm living in the present. And I'm walking. Keep on got to be a mystic man. I'm alone.
Welcome everyone to the Truth Gangsters house on Clubhouse. We like to do this every week where we expose truth, we discover truth, we share truth. And the topic of today's discussion is the declining health of Rastafari. Is ITAL no longer vital? Now, before I begin, I just want to remind you that we love to have a robust discussion here in the Truth Gangsters room. And so I invite all who would like to share their thoughts to come up on stage. So let me know if you'd like to be one of our speakers. I'm going to be sending out a few invites, and let me know if you are interested. Just accept the invite. I would love to hear the views from you. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, co-founder of the UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Association, is inarguably the greatest Pan-Africanist that has ever lived. Unsurprisingly, his philosophies form the backbone of the Rastafari movement. Some of these philosophies included Black self-empowerment, Black self-reliance, return to Africa, Black first philosophy. Many people believe that what Marcus Garvey said in 1920, look to Africa when a Black king shall be crowned, for the day of deliverance is at hand, came true in 1930 when Rastafari Makanen was crowned the new emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, the power of the Trinity. If anyone has any doubt of how important Garveyism is to the Rasta movement, you only need to look at one of our most famous Rastafari representatives, Robert Nesta Marley, Bob Marley. There was no time that Bob Marley performed and there was not an image of Marcus Garvey or Haile Selassie propped up on stage. He was very clear that he, like many other Rasta, saw Garvey as a prophet and as one of the founding fathers of their philosophy. In fact, one of Bob Marley's most legendary songs, Redemption Song, there's a line that says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can change our mind. To this day, people still think that that line was coined by Bob, and they are unaware that it's a direct quote from Garvey. That's how important Garvey was. So between the Black first philosophies of both Marcus Garvey, men like Leonard Howell, Rasta eventually evolved into a levity that would include, amongst other things, African spirituality, anti-capitalism, anti-Western standards of beauty, grooming, living off the land, independent of processed foods found in the white-owned and the Chinese-owned shops. These are all core principles of the Rastafari movement. Herbal remedies and living in accordance with nature. Part of these philosophies is the reason for the emergence of the Ital food shop that not only provided food for Rastafari men and women, but also for the other people in the population of Jamaica. But how much of this levity is alive today? Where we can look around us and we see Rasta singing about KFC. We see Rasta advertising alcohol and fast food. We see Rasta even advertising Christmas. And even scarier, we see Rasta musicians and elders falling ill. Rasta musicians and elders falling ill from things like diabetes, cancer, lifestyle diseases we see are affecting Rasta elder everywhere. Did Garvey make an even more important prediction? Are we overlooking Garvey's most important prediction when he said, and I quote, "If the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it." I'm going to repeat that. I think it bears repeating. If the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it. Has this become the reality of the Rastafari movement? Have they embodied the prediction of their most important prophet and philosopher? Where is the mystic man that Peter Tosh sing about? Where is the African herbs man and the African herbs woman? Why is Rastafari dying in hospitals run by Babylon? Why is Rasta turning to Babylonian medication when the healing of the nation is in the herb? Is this the reality? Let's talk about it. Anyone in the room would like to come up and chat with me? Tifara, Kristen, T. Who would like to go first? Leighton, I see your hand is raised. I'm inviting you up to speak. Dacia, welcome. Leighton, please go ahead. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what we've shared so far.
Yes, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear. If anyone having a challenge hearing Leighton, please just drop it in the chat so we can know.
Okay. Well, I was going to sit quietly by, but your opening was really riveting, fascinating, and very, very deep, profound. Anyway, it got me to thinking about how Rastafarianism, which was so um, much in the vanguard at that time, how relevant it is now, and yet the persons that are supposed to be the standard bearers have succumbed or are succumbing. But anyway, that's not even it's that's fascinating. But here the main thing I wanted to contribute or to raise is when you're on the outside of society, as Rastafarianism was and still is, there is a tendency to want to confuse assimilation with protection from discrimination. And at a point, Rasta wanted to become quote unquote official. And I don't think they realized that the price to pay for becoming official was to drink Babylon poison, as it were. And So here we are.
But that's interesting, Leighton, and I too share similar thoughts. But what I find concerning, or what I would love to know, certainly from your perspective, and Dacia, feel free to respond to this as well. How did a group of people that formed their philosophy and based their identity in opposing something, opposing a system, a mindset, a philosophy, move from that opposition, active opposition, where they even, many people may not know. I don't know how many of the listeners are aware of the actual brutality that Rasta had to face for holding their views. Many were killed, some were beaten, brutalized. Yes. So how do we go from active opposition to something, which to my mind means if you oppose something, you see something wrong with it? How do we go to opposing a thing to wanting to be part of that thing? Any thoughts on that?
Uh, to be honest, there's a fascinating excerpt from one of Franz Fanon's works. Franz Fanon, the great revolutionary intellectual, where he talks about the the great house and the longing, aspirational looks of the underclass to the opulence and status and prestige of that station. And it has pained me to come to the realization that maybe 90%, maybe more, of our conscious classes are really aspirants to great hostdom. And pain me even more to realize that they are not even aspirational to the master bedroom of great hostdom. They are very, very comfortable with outhouse status of great hostdom, so long as they are the few recognized important Negroes allowed on the great house lawns. And to see, I don't know, I remember when I saw um, Tony Rebel Salute making a big thing of the Herb Curb and Rasta, his uh, compliance, full compliance with the ganja laws and regulations. Mr. Norman, Rasta dead. I'm buried. I'm done for.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So Rasta now gone from being the outcast, the man you love to hate, according to Muta Baruka. Rasta's gone from being the outcast to now wanting to be the long haired guy in the great house, or certainly adjacent to the great house.
Yeah, indeed, Kishi. And there's so many signposts along the way. Uh, A very good friend of mine opened my eyes to the anti-blackness in our society and how rooted it is in its aversion to Rastafari and how we make fun of, humiliate, denigrate Rastafarianism. We pay lip service to great Rastafarians, great musicians, great whatever. But, and that friend pointed me to, uh, I don't remember which popular song it was.
Was it Lieutenant Stitchy? Natty dreadlocks off your face, all type of living.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And when she took me through it, I was like, wow. Because it's so natural just to laugh at it. Why should, and this attitude I'm thinking towards Rastafarianism or Rastafarians, deeply embedded as it is in our culture. So that even where people locks up, they make sure that them locks don't look like them a Rasta. So like fashion locks come about, you know? Or it look just enough near to Rasta but not quite, you know? But that aversion to Rasta, I think, has caused so many Rastafarians to want to crave real mainstream acceptance and has caused them to compromise all kind of tenets of Rastafari in order to garner that acceptance.
That's a very interesting point, and I'm glad you raised it because oftentimes when we're doing these kinds of assessment, we leave out the compassionate aspect of it. We don't often enough talk about how potent the pressure of the anti-blackness in our society is. And it could very well be this year. I see you spoke in the chat that you see Rastas now who are obese, Rastas eating meat. Do you think the need to be accepted? We know that even an afro, even just your natural hair, is frowned upon, much less a Rasta man or Rasta woman with locks to this day. Do you think that need to feel accepted and to feel less of an outcast, given the history of Rasta and the brutalization that they went through and the humiliation? I mean, for a time, it was said that Rasta man have 40 leg in him locks. They were seen as the dirtiest thing. So, Daisy, what are your views on that? I know you said you've seen Rasta eating a lot of fast food. Do you think any of that has to do with their need or desire to feel like one of us, to feel normal?
Hi, good night. But Keisha, if you are going to go that route, then you're no longer a Rasta, in my view. So if you want to be on that side, then you can't call yourself a Rasta. That's my view. You have to choose. You can't be a Rasta, but you're gonna eat meat, or you're gonna participate in certain things that are not of your religion, for want of a better word. So it may be coming from that. It may be coming from them not being true to well, I'm not a Rastafarian, and I don't know, like, the deep philosophies, but we know, as a Jamaican, you know that there are certain things that Rastas shouldn't be doing. Um, and is it that they don't understand? I'm confused about it, because when I see Rastas fat, it's confusing to me. When I see them eating meat, when I see them marrying white women, it's confusing to me. I am trying to figure out what is happening as well. And I also noticed that community is not as vocal as before.
When you say community is not as vocal as before, you mean the Rasta community?
Yes, the Rasta community. I find that they used to be more vocal, but you kind of find, like you said, they're trying to now fit in, which shouldn't be the case.
Go ahead, Leighton.
Um, you see, I've spoken to Rastas who say me smoke cigarette and nobody can tell me say me and a Rasta to smoke cigarette. One Rasta tell me say me name pork and a man can't tell me say me and a Rasta through my name. And each of them have them doctrine or doctrinary reason for hold on from Rasta while I do very unrasta like things. Um, I guess people would say, well, if you don't observe Ramadan, doesn't mean you're not a Muslim. And we all know about non-practicing Christian. So, um, basically, that strain of Rasta will tell you, say, don't bother oppress uh, a trying Rasta or a philosophical Rasta because him is not a strict doctrinarian or because him not rigid in practice. You can't stand in judgment time and say, well, then, him and a Rasta. That's a one thing. But for the second thing, people who are looking on, let us call them non-Rasta, who looking on and many of them admiring of Rasta philosophy and Rasta values. And some of them thinking perhaps about joining the Rasta movement. They look at certain things, certain inconsistencies. One thing that I know my friends and I at school used to laugh about, those of us who went to events at the stadium, track meet, football match, whatever, the saltest products were sold by Rasta. The salt nuts and the salt chippies, banana chips. You know, it was always a Rasta man selling us, and we're saying, wait, don't Rasta no deal with salt. I mean, to a child's mind, if a Rasta man is vending, he should be vending something ital, he shouldn't be vending something. I mean, in our conception, ital meant no salt. Anyway, rent a dread. Women come here, white women from wherever, North America mostly, come here and them rent all kind of black men. But how did it come to be rent a dread? Because growing up, you only ever saw them with, with Rastafarian. So, or men looking like Rastafarian. So, you know, there's always been, I mean, and every movement is like that, I guess. You know, I think because of the nature of the movement, something that was an opposition to certain social norms, that any alignment with those norms weakens the very basis of your existence.
A wise man once said that when we judge a system, we don't judge it by its adherence, or whether it's a system or philosophy. We don't judge a system or a philosophy by its adherence. We judge it by its principles. So at some point, we have to decide number one, what are the principles? Are they sound? Are they just? Because if we were to judge systems by their adherence, then every philosophy would have to go through the door, as Dacia said. Christianity would have to go. Islam would have to go. Socialism would have to go. Communism would have to go. Pan Africanism would have to go. So we can't judge a system by its adherence. But the question is, there is a tendency for people who are not Rasta to decide what these principles are. How can someone who is not Rasta, we had this chat in a previous room where a Rasta man was saying Rasta no has nothing to do with blackness, or that's not a founding philosophy. How do we assess that if we're looking at the principles of Rastafari? Is it fair to judge by the founding fathers, or can we give them room to evolve as they choose to? Dacia?
Markeisha, that's a very tricky one, because what exactly is it that makes someone a Rasta? That is where I need to start. What makes someone a Rasta? And when you say evolve, again, if you're going to depart from what I'm a non-Rasta, and I'm just going based on what they would have, I would have seen them licking out against, for example. And now when I'm seeing Rastas doing the same thing that they would have lick out against, it's confusing for me. So how can I still as pretty much say that you're a true Rasta if the same thing that you spoke about you are now doing it? So I'm confused. My name lick out something there. Oh, that's a Keisha. But but yeah. So if you're saying don't eat meat, don't do certain things, and then you're looking and you're seeing that the Rastas they are doing that. It's so you can probably tell me, or whoever has more information on what the principles of being a Rastafarian is, then maybe it would help me to say, okay, maybe they're evolving. But one of the main things I know about is the diet or the lifestyle. So for Rastas to be eating meat, and for Rastas, in my view, to be marrying white, those things are confusing to me. I thought those were things that they opposed. So, but again, like you said, I am a non-Rasta. I don't know the principles, so maybe I'm judging wrongly.
Um, may I interject?
Yes, go ahead.
There's something that has disturbed me greatly, and perhaps this room is as good an opportunity as any to let it out. I saw a post on social media by Peter Morgan, late Peter Morgan, his baby mother, saying that, they had come to terms and come to peace with his basically not being a part of his daughter's lives while they were growing up, her children. And, but she's glad that he always said what a good job she did, and etc., etc. And I thought to myself, it's not just the, if you said to me, pick one man in Jamaican life, representative of a group that you would be certain would not abandon his children, especially a man with the means to care for them. Like my first thing would be a Rasta man, because them man they deal with family straight, and to know that you have a Rasta man from a group of siblings called Morgan's Heritage, their father, Morgan's Heritage, that you could like basically not have nothing to do with the two daughters' upbringing by a woman who is also from reggae royalty was crazy to me. But the craziest thing, Keisha, is this: that you don't have a set of Rasta man round him where say, Jenna, it can't go so. And like no one really to speak on it. Ironically, it's died young from lifestyle disease as well. So it's like a complete forsaking of the principles. You don't have to dread to be Rasta, you don't have to be anything to be Rasta. That the
When they
man them
made that
part.
song, you don't have to be dread to be Rasta. I lost hope. I lost hope. Tifara, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Greetings, greetings, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, great. Um, you spoke earlier about Rastafari evolving, and that is based on the assumption that Rastafari needs evolution. My understanding of Rastafari and what it is, the philosophies of Rastafari, is to me, in my mind, perfection. There is no need for it to evolve. And it is disappointing to me as a woman who I came into a consciousness a few years ago. Through my hair first, I learned about myself. I learned self acceptance, self love, self awareness first, and then self acceptance. And then later on, I became a little more spiritual about it. At first I was just black conscious, and then I became a little more spiritual, and then I was looking for a space. I was looking all over the place for a home. And
Hold on, Tifara. Leighton, can you just mute your mic? I'm getting some feedback from your mic. Thank you. Go ahead, Tifara.
right, I was looking for a home, and I found myself even looking outside of Jamaica and for a while, and then I found myself back here faced with Rastafari as my only and best option. um, this is the birthplace of Rastafari, and I live here. What better opportunity, what better gift could I be given as a woman who cares about her self, cares about her ancestry, cares about her culture, her traditions, all of that. what better place to look than in Rastafari for a home? So I have been very disappointed with what I'm seeing Rastafari has come to. What I've known it to be for so long and what I'm seeing it to be now is just, it's, I would never have imagined. Um, well, no, there are lots of things that are more public. I guess there were things that were happening behind the scenes that most people who aren't in Rastafari wouldn't even have known of, because it couldn't be that we're just suddenly at this place. It must have been gradual, and there were things that people outside of Rastafari couldn't have seen. So um, I was definitely would have assumed that it was all of what it was portrayed to be. So now, being more exposed to Rastafari, now I'm with a man who is Rastafari and has been Rastafari for a long time. My experience is disappointing in so many ways. I mean, I don't know where to start. I could write a list of things that are disappointing about Rastafari. Um, the inauthenticity that is there, the division that is there. You know, there's and it's going back to what you were talking about before, about, you know, everybody needing to do Rastafari their own way, when Rastafari is just Rastafari. There is no need to divide and say, oh, you know, I'm doing it this way. I really don't know what the confusion is for a lot of these people. To me, Rastafari is plain and simple. It is what it is. There is no trying to make it like something else, be like something else, or you know, fix it a little bit, tune it a little bit, you know, to your liking. I don't believe in that at all. That's not what I see when I see Rastafari. And I don't know, I don't have any answers to say what had happened, why some people have the mindset that they have now. But definitely there is a need, a desire within Rastafari for many to be um, to live within the system, then to be accepted, you know, to be like them, for validation, all of it. There is this need to be like them, and I think there's a lot of fear also involved. I don't know if it's because of the trauma that people have experienced as Rastafari. I don't know, because we know that Rastafari has a traumatic history in Jamaica, and continues to. We've had even recent experiences with, you know, children who are Rastafari in schools, people who are Rastafari in corporate, you know, and I don't know. I just know that I understand Rastafari to be a certain way, and I'm only responsible for myself. And if I claim to be Rastafari, I know that for me personally, I am going to try to live in a way that is in fully in alignment with what Rastafari is. Um, and even if I may falter, I know that I am making an effort to be that. But I can't speak for anybody else in the group. I just know at this point, I mean, I would love to, and I would love to hold people more accountable. But the truth is, I think there was something mentioned about this before. You know, when one person speak up, you're shunned, and you know, people make you feel, you know, like an outcast for not being like everybody else, or not accepting what everybody else is accepting, you know, doing what the group is doing. So I tend to just do my own thing, and when something really irritates me, then I will speak out about it. But people who are around me, who I know are Rastafari, I try to hold them accountable as well. And if I see them doing certain things, but I don't know about the wider Rastafari group. I just don't see them as Rastafari, and I don't go in spaces where they are. I don't try to associate. I don't try to be like them. I hold my corner to what I know, and I just watch them. That is it.
You know,
Thanks for that, Tifara. That was very, very powerful and very important, because we can't deny that the fall from grace, quote unquote, or let us say the deviation from foundational Rastafari principles, we can't deny that some of this, quite a bit of it, is directly related to the declining of health that we see. Naal, my brethren, I see you've joined us. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Good night, family. I joined a bit late, but I was just listening to the different comments from each individual that's on the in the group so far. My take on it, as it relates to the decline in health, as the topic suggests, from what we know and for what is portrayed, and has always been portrayed about Rastafari, is that it is clean and ital living. Ital not in the sense of no salt, but ital as mean that everything should be pure, everything should be clean. Now, with that, over the years, with certain things coming to the fore, with certain prominent individuals of the Rastafari community, um, has been well, has been ill with certain, or coming over certain ailments. One would think that that would not be something that would affect those individuals, or ones on ones in that group, but the conditioning still runs deep, even with that kind of the way Rastafari should live and should be portraying themselves. But my thing is, even with all of that, in recent times, and as that sister was saying a while ago, you can't call some of them Rasta at all, as the name, whatever the name, that name embodies, because they're partaking of a lot of things that doesn't embody the whole movement, even with the way they eat, which I really want to, stay straight on topic with that, because I've observed where I see, Rastafari, they eating the whole thing with tofu. I see them eating even meat and other things that has been, even, I mean, dairy, a lot of things that has been contributing to the decline of the health in that community. Now, it is confusing, and it will be confusing for some, not for me, because I know a certain level of awareness. I'm still a student, still learning. I have a certain level of awareness when it comes to food, and I would think that, I mean, even bigger than the bigger picture than the Rastafari movement, because they are a part of the life procession. They are a part of the the creative procession, and should be and have to adhere to all the cosmic laws that has been set up by the creating force. Now, I think the one thing that probably I should need to get back to is what is the food for the melanated man and woman, which still that embodies, that involves the Rastafari group as well. And if we should go back to that, and if we should go back to that, read the true definition or the true meaning of what we should be eating, which that from the get-go was the thing that Rastafari has always pushed. I mean, the ital food, the clean, plant-based thing, that kind of thing. That is like that has been kicked through the door. Or I don't know if it's a case where um, ones and one that is in the community are not totally clear on what is the food, the real food for us as melanated man and woman. Because I've seen with my own eyes, I mean, supermarkets and other place where you see them, you see a lot of Rastafari coming, a lot of Rasta coming there. But probably they're just individuals with locks on their head, really, are not really practicing the all the precepts and everything that embodies Rastafari still. So that could be on an individual basis. But speaking on a whole, you see certain individuals, prominent individuals in that community might be, affected with certain things health wise. Then one has to, take a second look and say, I mean, what is or what has been happening. And as the sister was saying earlier, probably stuff has been going on, but now things are more out in the open. So a lot of things are coming to the fore, which I mean that could be true as well, because not because as I heard our brother said once, I mean, knowledge can only be called knowledge if one is putting into practice what they know, because that is what it really means. The first part of it is know, which is the English, and the second part, ledge, which is German, which means to do. One should be putting into practice what they know. And most of the times, I mean, a lot of people might say things, speak eloquently, and speak a certain thing, but does anybody follow them around to see if they're really practicing what they preach? So, I mean, one could say, I mean, and talk, whatever, but are they really practicing or embodying what they're really speaking or what they're preaching? But I
But
mean, that's the.
Naal, I want to suggest something. Um, if I may say this. Uh I think some of what we're saying, we might be getting ahead of ourselves. And I'll
Mm,
tell you why.
mm,
A lot of the elder men in my family are Rastas from the deep rural areas. My uncles,
mm,
I know of Rastas that live straight from the land. Them,
mm,
them not in a nothing with Babylon shop, Chinaman shop. Many of the original founding Rastafari men and women were not plant based. What they were ital, meaning that even if they consumed flesh, those of them that did, it would have been flesh that they reared, things that they fish, them dive and fish out. I mean, even Profi, Elder Ras
mm.
Profi, has
Exactly.
videos where he's talking about the fact that even within the compounds and confines that he lived, for brethren who ran to the hill when they were being prosecuted, not all Rasta was vegan or ital or plant based, whatever you want to call it.
Mm,
Not all of them was meat free. And I
mm,
think we're kind of conflating this idea of a natural livity with the requirement to only eat plants, because not all man, who did I say, Selassie, Rasta, Gavi, not all of them were abstaining from meat.
that is
And
very true.
I would even go as far as to say that even amongst those that were eating so-called non-ital, well, let us not use the word ital, but non-plant-based, We didn't see the level of poor health that we see now
Mm,
because man did still grow them food.
exactly.
Man did still abide by the principles of herbal medication. They weren't in the
Mhm,
doctor's office. They weren't in the supermarkets. They weren't at the Chinaman wholesale. They weren't drinking from plastic bottles. I remember as a child, Rastaman used to walk around with crocus bag as they had to carry their stuff, and it was laughed at. Nowadays, they call it eco-friendly. So even that,
mhm,
Rastafari was pioneers in being eco-friendly, staying away from plastics, staying away from toxics, even those that weren't strictly abstaining from meat. So I just want to
mhm,
be clear that a lot of this,
mhm,
this expectation that a Rasta must never touch meat. I don't know if that's 100% correct. Obviously, I'm open to be corrected, but I do have videos of Prof I on record saying this exact same thing.
mhm.
So I don't know how you feel about that, Naal. And
No,
Maxine,
well,
you can jump in
to tell the
afterwards.
truth, here, I really, what you're saying is really true and correct because I can speak. My father is a Rasta man, and my father he still eat fish, which I would consider still animal flesh the same, not because it's aquatic. I my uncle, him used to eat him used to eat meat and stuff, but it wasn't anything that he reared. But he's a Rasta man and he still partake of animal flesh. My dad still do it till this day. He still eat fish. Well, less now that less far less now. But what you're saying is true and correct because a lot of not all were all the way 100% plant based. They still partake of flesh, but that was something that they rear themselves. They grew that chicken, they grew that goat, they grew that they rear that animal that they use, and they'll go fishing and they'll catch their fish themselves. They wouldn't be buying it from a supermarket or buying it from a meat shop. They basically was just living from nature. Whether it be 100% plant based or whether it be plants mixed with still having animal flesh. That's something that is very very true and correct. But with no, a lot of that is not really going on. And even with the whole thing about the crocus bag, now they call it eco-friendly. They just, put a little fancy spin on it, but it's still a crocus bag. It's just brought forward with some fanciness. But yeah, but it's is it that what most of them they have stopped um being self-sufficient in terms of them in they growing their own food. I mean, I know a lot of them still do it. I know that a lot of them still do it, and I know that for sure. But it would seem as if there's less of that taking place in terms of if they partake of meat, they don't grow that animal themselves, so they know exactly what that animal eats. They don't partake of herbal stuff
Yeah, we see
in terms of
even the
itself.
herbal medic it's seriously lacking. See,
Yeah.
the day I see Rastaman in a hospital, boy, I don't know. Maxine, I know you've been waiting to speak. Please share your thoughts on this topic. Maxine, are you there? You can just unmute your mic and jump in the
Okay, can
conversation.
you hear me now?
Yes, sis, I'm
Can you hear
hearing you
me
now.
now? Okay, peace and blessings, everyone. Good to be here. Yeah, so I just want to say that just a little bit about the Rasta overall conceptualization and about the health. You know, I have I have family members, close family members, siblings who are Rasta, preeminently my brothers, and one of them is you would consider him a very elder Rasta. And I'm listening to all of this just generally around. My background is in I'm a traditional doctor of naturopathy and have been vegan for 5 decades. Okay, most of my life, and into I have some advanced degrees in wellness and nutrition and all that kind of, and have been, looking at everything for a while in terms of health of my family who's in Rasta, and also looking at what I would call degeneration. Two things usually happen is when you see a group of people, quote unquote, degenerating, you have to sit back and say, what is the commonality? What is the common thread that is running through everyone in order to arrive after that assessment of what the underlying issues are in terms of health? There's a question when was asked, and the sister said, well, I see Rasta as perfect. I don't see the need for evolution. But what I'm saying is I do organic farming as well, and I collaborate with a lot of Rastas in terms of food. One of the things that's happening is that we have to evolve when it comes to the first line of defense, all of us, okay? And when you're vegan, you have to step it up a few modes. I used to eat tofu. I don't eat tofu now anymore because of all of the issues that come with that, and effeminization of the males, thyroid issues, so on and so forth. But as it relates to the food, first line of defense, we have to deal with the fact, and I am dealing with it constantly, as somebody who's into farming and growing their food. There are some things that are outside of the parameters of our control that is now forcing us to have to evolve and to have to upgrade our knowledge base. Okay? And it is that there is, when we all on this group, if we're here, we're somewhat conscious to varying degrees. There's a deliberate orchestration going on in terms of what is going on with respect to poisoning the food, right? So what I've done, and in some of the circles that I'm in, there's a lot of exchange of information and knowledge. Food, right, that you're planting is being impacted by the poisons, the genetically modified things that are morphing into your garden, the chemtrails, all of that is real, okay? Right? Very real. So you have to upgrade. How do you get around these things? What do you do? Okay, how do you collaborate with other people so when you put in compost, the things that you're putting in is not filled with food that is coming from other farmers or other places that have pesticides and whatever in it. So when you put it into your food, you're not continuing the trail of degenerated, you know, food, a food that is full of poison. Okay? Years ago, my father is a bald-head Rasta man, if there is such a thing. And he used to talk about liberty all the time. And he lived Rasta philosophy with everybody. In the village that I come from, taking and sharing and, ancestral reality. But he was as bald as they come. So the philosophy of Rasta has to evolve, and we have to go back to foundation. Food is a part of the foundation. I don't know how now, if there are gatherings where the fundamental philosophy of Rasta needs to be researched and to be retaught and to go back to your elders and figure out what the basic fundamentals of Rasta is, and then know how to look at the reality of what is happening in the here and now and fix that and fix it from the food, to the whole thing you were talking about health, the mental health, right? The cognitive health of how you're looking at what constitutes a Rasta family and, the degeneration of the images that we are now putting together to call family. Okay? And that is part of the health. But on the food level, seeds, where you getting your seeds from? Rather seeds not going to get it. I'ma just tell you this, me have to carry my seeds undercover. And we need to exchange our seeds so that when we put stuff in the soil, we're putting in what is nature, what is real, what is strong. And what, because if the bodies are going down and is weak and the food is weak, you have to look at the source of where we're getting the seminal seeds and the methodologies that we're using now to do the planting, and also to recognize that there is a very strategic hand being put out to poison us on all levels. So you negate the supermarket, but what we are putting in the ground, we have to now fight for it on that level. And that's pretty much what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Maxine. Well said. Some very interesting points raised. Um, but I wanted to comment on your last point specifically because a lot of people who are plant-based are getting sick by virtue of things that are outside of their control, like some of the, as you mentioned, the issues with the seedlings and all of that, the soil, etc. But I from what I can observe, there is even a larger percentage of people, Rasta included, getting sick, not because they're eating poison callaloo, but because they're drinking rum and Red Bull, Hennessy, KFC, etc. So we for many of them, we're not even at the level of how can we produce non-toxic farm fresh food. We're still at the level of why is Rasta at the jerk chicken spot?
Um,
You know?
you know,
Sorry, Leighton, you wanted to comment on that?
yeah, you raise a very, very important issue at the center of of
Leighton, your
that.
phone is breaking up. Could you just repeat that, please? I'm not sure if anybody else heard, but for me, it was crackling.
Principles.
No, 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 Leighton, we're not hearing you. Not hearing you. Not hearing you. Can you go to another section?
Is this better?
Much better. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So we know that principles are, as you had stated earlier, principles are what you judge a movement or grouping by, because nobody will be a perfect adherent. Here's the problem with Rasta. It's one thing to say, boy, say, may I eat this and may I do that, and say that I'll go against Rasta principle. So that the person who is breaking the principle, even though he might break it every day and feel bad about breaking it, he know that he's breaking a principle. It's a totally distinct thing conceptually from saying this thing that I'm doing is not breaking a Rastafarian principle. It's I am a good practicing Rastafarian notwithstanding. And once that sort of thinking take hold, then it attenuates little by little what it really means to be a Rastafarian. And then it leaves people open to and that line from that song that you mentioned earlier, you don't have to dread to be Rasta. Now listen, if I were to go to prison and there were a group of Christians and a group of whoever else and a group of Rasta, and you said, listen, you have to choose a group and
The group that you choose is who you have to finish out your whole sentence with. I'm still gonna choose the Rasta them, you know. With all women know about Rasta. I still gonna choose the Rasta because of the articleness that they come to embody and that you expect or have come to expect from so many of them. But I don't know. It's a difficult one, Kish, because the more people see the principles broken without any consequence or without even any, as time go by, any acknowledgement that the principle is broken, then it seems like there really is no principle and is, you know, the the amount of that the when we did law, they talk about justice being measured by the length of the chancellor's foot and like locks or something like.
Tifaro, I wanted you to respond to what Maxine said about, that the our need to evolve. I know you said that the core Rastafari at its core, the principles are sound, the principles are perfect. Um, we could go deeper in those principles, I think, but evolution is another thing. Can you respond to that for us?
Okay. Well, I agree with you.
Don't hear
Tifaro,
nothing. Hmm. It
Tifaro,
disappeared.
not hearing Tifaro at all. Maxine, you wanted to expound?
Um, you know, okay. So uh, what I'm trying to say is I agree with the brother who was saying, Leighton saying that, you know, you have the philosophy or the way of life, and then people, just kind of justify to their consciousness when they break the rules and continue to do it. And I've now, quote
Hello?
unquote,
Hello?
yeah, okay, there you go.
Hi,
Yes,
Tifaro.
sister.
We're hearing you now. We weren't
Okay.
hearing you earlier.
Okay, sorry about that. Um yes, I don't believe that Rasta needs any evolution. I really don't. I think it is perfect the way it is, and a lot of the food that Rasta is eating now, a lot of the ways that Rasta has adopted now were never originally Rastafari. And so that is just the truth of it. So what we know now to be Rastafari was not what it was before. Rasta wasn't eating chunks. Rasta wasn't eating tofu before. Those things were introduced to Rastafari. So really what needs to be done is that we need to return to what Rastafari was before. And I agree with Makeda that there are lots of Rastas who eat meat, but they were still healthy. They were eating the chicken that them grow. They were eating common fowl. Them not eating the white chicken that them grow in a coop. They weren't eating those chickens, right? They were eating more natural, and I believe in that natural levity as well. That there's a way. I have friends who are, I would consider conscious. I would consider they're healthy. They eat meat, but I know that them a grow them own chicken, them grow them own goat. They eat what them grow, and they eat eggs, but they may eat eggs from organic farms, and so they're very choosy about what they eat, even though them eat meat. So really, as Makeda said, the problem with Rastafari and the health now is that they're not even choosing the best of what is available. They're choosing to eat fast food, and as somebody who is in a Rastafari space all the time, I know that it is a lot of people will come around, and this is in general in the quote unquote conscious space. A lot of people will be around and will put up a great facade of who they are, and they will talk a good game. They're so conscious and they know this and they know that. They have all of the knowledge, but they're not really applying it in real life. They're not living by those principles because everybody know it is not like, if you know Rastafari, you know what Rastafari is. So if you are not living in alignment with what Rastafari is, you are not being honest.
Thanks for that, Tiff. I wanted us to pivot slightly. Um, and now I'll give you first dibs to respond here. Now, we spoke in the beginning of the foundational philosophies of Rasta. Much of it came from Garveyism, Pan Africanism, the Back to Africa movement. How much of this decline in health and these poor choices of food is resulting from the rejection or the watered down nature of that philosophy of going back to Africa? So many Rastafari know they're more proud to be Jamaican than anything else. They're more proud to be what they like to call indigenous. And I saw it. It was very interesting to see the reaction to a man like Dr. Sebi, for example, who, when we strip down the name, when we strip down the name, whether it's alkaline or not, we see that there is a lot of similarities between what Dr. Sebi recommends as the ideal diet and the original ital diet of the Rasta man and Rasta woman. But a lot of these issues that we have in my view, has a lot to do with the rejection of the Back to Africa movement and this obsession with Jamaicanization. So when Sebi says, for example, remember that Captain Bligh, the white man, brought breadfruit here to feed you as an enslaved person. And Rastafari responds with, "Yeah, idiot. Original Jamaica yardman food." You see? When we're using things like flaxseed, peanut punch, and these things which are made by white people. I mean, we maybe some things like tofu and chunks, as Tifara mentioned, are obvious. But what about these things that were not a part of our original founding philosophies as enslaved Africans? If we really agree and if we truly wish to go back to the foundations of Rastafari principles, Naal, please, I'd love if you would expound on that or respond whether you agree or disagree.
Okay. In regards to what you're saying, well, with regards to a lot of the rejection, where, as I said, the Back to Africa movement is concerned, that doesn't only has to do with the diet, because what you eat will allow you to think a certain way and behave a certain way because it is fuel for your cells. It also has to do with being aware of one's heritage and one's history, which a lot of people not even interested, not even interested to look into their ancestral lineage and their ancestral past to see, I mean, who we were prior to the 1600s. because most of what is fed to us begins from the whole slave ship or the whole slavery thing, which I mean we're far greater than that, way before. People don't want to just take the time and do the due diligence to go back. And with that as well, there are evidence of our information there of what we used to partake of as our diet to help us to maintain, vitality and to have, just longevity as well and good health. And what you're saying is true. A lot of what Dr. Sebi practiced and preached was really in line with um with what the Rastafari embodies are supposed to embody. But the decline in the health, as you said, and the rejection has to do a lot with the the diet and what it is now. And one can say, I mean, yeah, the economics, and I understand all the economics, but nothing doesn't stop one from growing their own food as much as possible. As much as possible as one can do so, you can do that. And there's really no excuse for that, because I mean I've seen people with very, very little space that they grow a lot of stuff in that little space. I mean, they might go and get other stuff from, probably the supermarket or from the market, but as much as possible, they try to grow a lot of stuff. And that is something that I think more need to be practiced a lot more. But as just going back to what you're saying, just to have the point, but it is really the diet. It is really the diet that is really causing the decline and also the rejection of what we are or who we are as melanated people and our ancestral lineage, and people just flat out rejecting it because of I mean their minds are confounded. To tell the truth, their minds are confounded, and there are a lot of variables that come into play, and that is concerned in terms of the source of the seeds, as Maxine was saying, the source of the seeds, the whole chemtrailing thing, the whole the fluoride in the water. There's a lot of things, but still, as I always say to people, you might not be able to do or practice certain things on a regular basis, but what will enable you to be in a better position is to arm yourself with the necessary information and knowledge so you can start to make better choices. And we really need to go back to, the foundation of what we're supposed to be doing. Not just the whole thing embodies Rastafari as well, but on a broader scale as the melanated man and woman. We really need to get back as much as possible to the things that will enhance our biological structure, the things that will enhance us mentally, spiritually, physically. And I think that is the best place to start.
That is so important. Beautifully said, Naal. Leighton, I know you have to leave us very soon, so I'm gonna just ask you to give your parting words.
Yes. Well, final thoughts are that at some point, rather than interfacing
Sorry,
with,
Leighton, you're breaking up. If you could go to a clearer spot, the Wi-Fi
okay,
seems to be breaking up. Repeat?
This is
Yes, go
special.
ahead. Yes.
Leighton, you actually sound worse to me.
Oh, wow. Um,
Stay right where you are.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one thing. Yeah,
Leighton, we're not hearing you at all. I'm not sure.
oh gosh, I
Some
don't know. I don't know where
anti-Rastafari
else to
forces.
go. I've been in the same place for most of the time.
Yes, I'm hearing you now. No, we,
within the
we, we
state of.
lost you. We lost you, Leighton.
All right,
We
I'm
lost you.
sorry. Another time. A great
No
discussion.
problem. No problem. No love. Have a good night.
So, bless you.
All right. I see that Kush has
Keisha.
entered the
Oh,
stage. I know you would have entered late, but I don't know if you wanted to share just your general thoughts on the topic this evening, especially that you are a member of the Rastafari movement. Uh, what are your thoughts on the topic at hand? Kush, are you hearing us? Would you like to share?
Sorry. Good night. Sorry about that. You're kind of repeating. Sorry, my late sir. Night, everyone. Kind of joined a little late, so I missed a lot of the topic. Let's have a conversation. What were you saying again, Keisha? What was the question?
We're just asking you for your thoughts.
Sorry.
All right, just a minute, Kush. Mute your microphone just a second, because it seems to be some reception issues as well. Dacia, you were clear. Your voice was clear. Would you like to go ahead and respond to Maxine?
yes. So I think most of us are saying the same thing. Maxine spoke about evolution, but her description of evolution, in my view, is not necessarily evolution. It's still sticking to the principles. What she spoke of was us really trying to ensure that we're getting our food in the most natural state. So as Tiff said, we're really not there's no need for evolution. You're still trying at all costs to ensure that you're consuming your food in the most natural state, free of toxicity. So that's not, in my view, evolution. Still sticking to the principles. The issue, and I believe the decline in health, is as a result of the departure from what the basic principle of sticking to natural. So it's not just about the diet is the main part, but and the diet would also include drinking of herbs. Now you're seeing Rastas, they're going to pharmacies and going into doctor offices to be guided by those persons. That is departing from from the basic principles in terms of sticking with nature as best as possible. The Rastas are going into KFC. That's a departure. So yes, you'll have the contamination of the air and the soil, But I do not believe that that is the main reason, because if you're still fasting and if you're still drinking your herbs, that will help to counter that. The main cause is the departure from the basic principles. Now, one of the things you asked was, do we believe that departure is because of the persecution? And but there are many groups, Keisha, that they have gone through persecution and all of that, and they have still stuck to their belief. Because to me, if you
Like
believe
which group?
it,
Which group has gone through
I
similar
think
persecution?
the Jews, if and you guys can correct me, but I'm still seeing where the Jews, they still stick to their beliefs. They still stick to it despite persecution. Nah, okay. Well, in my view, how I viewed Rastafarians was irrespective of the oppression and all of that, they still stuck to what they believed in because they believed it was right. They When you really believe in something, irrespective of what is happening, you're going to stick with it. That is it. I saw Rastafarians as a disciplined group. So, irrespective of what, of society looking down on them, and issues with the police and all of that, they still stuck to what they believe. And for me, in a time where I see more persons embracing what they were saying for years, more people are embracing it now, and that the Rastas running from it. So it's so confusing now, because now is when they really should be leading the charge, because here things are manifesting that they would have been speaking about long before. Now is when they should be stepping up, and now they are now conforming to the Babylon system. So that I find to be confusing. They have guns. Well, Keisha, well, let me go to another group. Although Christians now would not do what they claim that Christians did then, right? And despite oppression, and when they speak about when Jesus came, I'm gonna use that example. And despite oppression, they still stuck to what they believed in. So for me, if you believe something, that it therefore means that you're a hypocrite. Because if pressure reaches you and you're going to change or conform, then to me you did not really believe in what you were speaking. That is my view. So
Thanks for that, Dacia. I'm gonna let Kush respond to that. But before I do, I want us to be careful. I think we should be careful of how we assess a group of people like members of the Rastafari movement,
mm-hmm,
because on the one hand, we went through a Holocaust that was a couple hundred years versus 6 years for the Jews. But on the other hand, going back to even what Maxine said, so much of the issues that we face is one of lack of power. A lack of power. The Jews have power. However, they took it, that's for another room. Whether they took it by force, by military dominance, by being involved in slavery themselves. The fact is, the Rastafari group of people are a subset of a subset. So if enslaved people are traumatized and fearful, and even within that group, there is an outcast, the group of people who are holding on to African spirituality, even when it was being beaten out of all of us, who are holding on to their hair, even when it is being shamed and disgraced. I believe we have to really assess them. Perhaps compassion is the wrong word, but I don't think we can compare the struggles of the Rastafari movement, which is a back to Africa movement. It is an African liberation movement. It's a revolutionary movement at its core with a Zionist movement. That's my view. But Kush, you'd be better able to speak on this than me since you are Rasta. And then Maxine, I know you're waiting to respond. But Kush, go ahead.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Ah, sorry, I joined a little late, so I missed a lot. Um, but yeah, I agree with Tisha about what you were stating a while ago. It's kind of difficult to compare the Rastafari movement with um other movement per se, the Jewish movement or the Jewish oppression. Um, the Rastafari movement being an African liberation movement means that it finds itself entangled with the entire African fight. You know, and our kind of oppression is kind of different or unique because the, unlike now or unlike what is trying to push on us now, if we can think back a little, the Rastafari movement was embodied, or the core of it was about African liberation, no matter where the African was. So the Rastaman never assigned himself to any nation outside of Africa. So whether he's a Jamaican, whether he's from Trinidad, where he's from America, wherever you find the black individual, the black person that decided that they're going to trod the Rastafari movement, automatically, as Bob would say, you automatically become an Ethiopian, an African. So the Rasta man or the Rasta woman automatically connects themselves to the entire African struggle. All right. Um, whether it be food, whether it be clothing, whatever it is, it was connected to the entire African struggle. Now, after infiltration happened because the Rastafari movement was to trample a lot of things in was to trample the society. It wasn't to try and solve the society. It wasn't trying to adjust things in the society. It was literally a movement that within itself was 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 was
Yeah?
geared to kill. Sorry, was geared to kill the
What?
society.
Where?
Mute your mic, Dacia.
Just
Dacia.
open
Dacia,
the
mute your mic.
the
Mute your
grill.
mic.
What? Where? How this happened? Jesus Christ, you left on the stove. I didn't. You had to leave on the stove, Jayla. The burner was on.
Oh, sorry, Keish, I had some difficulty hearing you there. Can you repeat?
Okay, so first thing, with something there, you have to cover it. You see with that, and this is why I'm saying like you would have turned on something, probably accidentally, but you turned it on. Turn on the fan there. Turn on.
All right, not sure if because I wasn't hearing it. I think our mic was on. I was hearing the static. Could you repeat?
No, I'm telling you to continue now.
Okay,
Continue.
sorry. Okay. All right. Where was I? Yeah. So it was connected to the entire African movement of liberation. There is no Jamaican, as you pointed out. Bob Marley, Peter Touch, and all these men never once waved a Jamaican flag, no matter when them travel, where they travel to, no matter where they perform. They never once waved this so-called Jamaican flag. That was very important because as a movement, we were able to tap into wherever we are as African. And the infiltration that happened was to turn us into Jamaicans, was to Jamaicanize us. So Bob Marley, who even in the movie, the most important part in the movie was him reassuring Rita that, yo, Rita, we are go Africa, you know. We're going to live in Africa. We're not living nowhere else but Africa. They want to turn him to a national hero of a place where he didn't even want to live. They didn't even want to live. So, and then this place where they didn't want to live also try to divide themselves from Africa, even though they're about 90% Africans. They're trying to take away themselves from Africa. So, as you point out, the foods that was brought to um, keep us in uh, a state of depression. Um, they studied these foods. There were reports about giving starch to the Native Americans and how they were rocked in a way of fearful to fight, fearful in certain things. The same thing was said of breadfruit. That is only coward man eat breadfruit. It's the same thing. We already knew this, but we were being divided from the mass fight. That's the difference between the African fight and everybody else fight. Is that our fight is connected to the entire African community, and how to kill that is to divide us. So once you turn Rasta into Jamaican, then you could get into their food, you can get into their clothing, you could get into their philosophy. And if you're Jamaican, shouldn't you be eating so-called Jamaican food? So breadfruit is Jamaican food. Um, Certain little things that didn't fit into the natural or ital lifestyle or ital became predominantly African or predominantly Rasta. So all of a sudden, no, Rasta was vegetarian, or Rasta was a political movement that was trying to fix society. So we're not going to eat. Rasta don't. Rasta eats soy. Rasta eat chunks. Rasta eat mints, because no, these things were against society, or these things were trying to set society in focus. Instead of Rasta actually burning the concept of farming, because it is not ital. So the concept of farming is wrong. Not what you farm, not what you try to farm. Is the entire concept of farming. So Rasta was infiltrated. So and until Rasta get back to that core value, where the core value is that we are Africans, we are black Africans first, and then everything else after, then we're going to be a problem. Because if we were black African first, then Dr. Sebi would have been the closest that we have to ital food, ital explanation outside of Rasta, which would have fit perfectly into the movement as a black liberation movement. We finally got our doctors, our healer, that is in line with us. But because we're not a part of the whole Pan African movement anymore, we are all Jamaicans now, then, you know, Dr. Sebi is not one of us. So I think that's what was the main thing that happened with Rasta. I thought infiltration happened because Rasta was supposed to kill the society, not adjust it.
Interesting points. Maxine and then Kristen. Maxine, Kush is saying that farming
Yeah.
is in and of itself is an unnatural, not ital way to eat, because raw food doesn't require farming.
Okay.
What are your
Let
thoughts?
Okay. I just want to address something first and then come to that.
Sure.
Okay. When I say use the word evolution, okay, I recognize the fundamentals, the foundation upon which Rasta philosophy is founded. I guide spiritually. I guide a group of people in a couple of countries, and just everybody is like Rasta. You say completely vegan. We don't eat no kind of meat at all. okay, no soy and all of that. And when I say evolution, is this: I said to them, there's one thing in the world, there's a law that never can be nullified, and it is that change is the one constant that exists on this earth, in the cosmos, in the universe. Change is the one constant. And by that, what I mean when I say evolution, to really deepen it, is you have to take a look at what is going on in your reality in the world, right? Everything that you do does not last because there are cycles that are moving in terms of the earth itself. And for you to be in harmony with the environment, Rastafarianism came about because of the need for change, right? And all of the things that were going on that were unnatural, that, you know, did was not serving humanity. And they understood that it was out of order with universal spiritual cosmic law. And so what I'm saying right now, in our here and now, we have to look at how Babylon, okay, and all of whatever else is impinging upon us as a people globally, and go to the heart of what it is. Because if we have no food, we don't have clean food, and it's not just Rasta, okay? If you don't have clean food to put into this vessel, this body, then it is going to degenerate. It doesn't matter who you are or how you eat, okay? You're going to degenerate. And so when I say evolution, I'm saying sitting down, meditating, looking at what is actually happening. Though I am dealing with my fundamental philosophy of health, that health is my wealth and all of whatever it is, and then I have this enemy on the outside who's maneuvering and plotting and planning, that I need to become astute enough to recognize what he or she is doing and then make a decision of how I am going to institute certain changes, changes in my knowledge base, how to up my quote unquote, I'm going to use the word game, or how to shift, right? Where I am in order to be able to lock the enemy outside of my door, because Babylon is our enemy on multiple levels. Too much to go into in this conversation. But what I'm saying is, you know, um, what part of what to the other part of the point about farming, there are techniques to farm where you don't even till the soil, you don't move no dirt, okay? That technique exists. Or let me just say, it's an old practice that we need to reinstitute. When I farm, I don't do no whole heap of, disturbing the earth, right? I farm in such a way that I work in communion with nature. That's not how my father farmed. That's not how my grandfather farmed. So I've come to an evolution with respect to farming that is now so evolved that I can create, like it when a brother says on here, a lot of food in a small space. And so I don't give over the power of my fundamental beliefs. But what I've done is I've evolved to a place where I recognize the enemy and then I put things in place in order to block him. Okay, so that I can continue to have the life that I know I should have, because that's part of the war. Okay, I'm not gonna get into downing anybody because they farm or whatever it is. Okay, we've been farming. Let's just put it in perspective. We talk about Africa, right? There are certain foods in the motherland that we should be eating. Things like grains, like fonio and millet, that our ancestors have been growing for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. That's what the Nubians did on the Nile. Okay, the people of Kush. That's what we did. So I'm not necessarily, not agreeing with the whole thing about farming is unnatural, because that particular insight or that spirit or that genius of ancestry came to us and was given to us long before there was enslavement, for tens of thousands of years. Okay? So that pretty much is all I can add to the conversation. But I think it's great, all of what you're saying, but again, making conscious choice, as the sister said, to not be eating the poison in the supermarket, and at least making the effort to stick to the fundamental principles, and to be so watchful, to be so fastidious when you recognize all the different ways that the poison and the destruction is coming at you. Then if you need to shift your gears and redirect, your fundamental reality, so that it can keep you away from the danger. That's what I mean about evolution. Okay, I hope that helps to
Yes,
clarify.
thank you so much for that, Maxine. Kristen, I know you've been waiting for a long time. Please feel free to go ahead with your thoughts.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right,
We're hearing you.
no problem. Good evening, everyone. Keisha, thank you so very much for initiating this conversation. I think it's much needed within the space. My contribution to the discussion is that what I think is, to an extent, lacking currently is community. Because for me, community leads to continuity. Beyond that, a succession plan, and I think more so sustainability. So, for context, I am not Rasta, but I would have always been fascinated by the levity of the people. So, I started locking my hair in 2011, and I think that was the gateway for me, even more so towards the lifestyle. So during that time, the reggae revival would have been happening. And I think it was also the awakening for a lot of younger persons, within that 20 to now 30 age group, where we started hearing, for example, spirulina. We didn't necessarily know what that was, but we were introduced to, for example, Vivo, a Dr. Spice. So there was a change within the consciousness of persons who actually started gravitating to the music. And I think that was always the gateway for a lot of persons, not just within Jamaica, but outside of Jamaica. It was sometimes the music first, the lifestyle second. I think what is happening currently is that, going back to continuity, so you would have entered through the portal, but then there is also a lack of knowledge, because now you are being awakened to particular things, practices, a new way of eating, a new way of speaking, a new way of understanding the body and the body dynamics. And I think what has happened to an extent is that, though you would have walked through the portal, you don't know how to sustain it, because now you have to nourish yourself. Okay, I'm accustomed to going to the KFCs, going to the different fast food joints. Now, where do I find food that now aligns with my new consciousness? No, I mean, 2024, it's a new space. There are a lot more avenues for access to food. You know what you and Kush do, you have different spaces in within Kingston, but at the same time, are we also learning how to do it ourselves? Then you have another question of cost and convenience, and also accessibility. Because even though, okay, I may be committed to the lifestyle, but then what happens when it's 12 o'clock and I start getting hungry, and I'm not necessarily in a space where I prepared something, or I'm struggling now because I don't necessarily have the tools to also start experimenting with food and knowing what to eat and how to prepare it, so that I am actually not just eating, but I'm also enjoying what I'm eating. So, my contribution to the discourse is that I think a lot of persons may not, maybe the newer persons to the lifestyle have entered into it, but now they're having problems sustaining. And because of that, if it is that a flame does not have oxygen, it dies out. And having had a habit of doing a lifetime of particular things, it becomes very easy if it is that you don't have a community around you, or you can now start to look to examples of what success looks like within this new way of life. You know, if it is having a home in the hills, if it is having your own gardens that you are farming or not farming, or just doing it free form, but you still have to look to something. Even though we try to do things ourselves, as you know, if you want to go far, you go together. So I think what is lacking to an extent is lack of community, or if it is that we're not necessarily finding the spaces or the pockets that have the community of like-minded individuals who can encourage each one to know that, okay, we can come here. This is a farmer's market. We do organic stuff. I'm so grateful for the community that Kush has set up, because at least now we know that, okay, if I want greens, I can go X place to get it. And there is now a village, but I think we need more spaces that afford that. And again, you know, having that dialogue around togetherness and each one teach one, and we share so that at least we can sustain, because a part of it is continuity. Do we have a succession plan? Can we now teach our little ones how to cook a particular way? You know, understanding the body, understanding the different herbs that are there, how does that impact upon? Because there's also a generation of knowledge that is being lost, because now we're seeing that generations are now transitioning, and we're not necessarily retaining the knowledge that the ones who were above us would have had. So I think that is a big part of what, to my mind, is lacking: community. And those are my thoughts regarding the topic.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Well said, well said. I wanted to respond to something though, and then I'm gonna ask Naal for his input on a particular point. Um, one of the things I like to say, whatever you pre, you will see. And if we go back to what Dacius wrote in the chat, which is bearing the basic principles, the foundational principles in mind, you wouldn't even register KFC as food. Now, this is no judgment on anyone, because we all have our journey. I used to eat at KFC too. But if I'm thinking in the context of a Rasta man or a Rasta woman, where their guiding star is not simply health, it's not simply community, it's much deeper. It's a spiritual connection to the earth, to nature. It's a spiritual and a political statement. Going back to some of the things Kush mentioned with in terms of Pan-Africanism, um, self-reliance, not enriching those who would otherwise see you as less than. So even just on those basic principles, if we were adhering to the basic principles, we would not stray so far. Going back to even what Maxine said when she clarified what she meant by evolution, I would have to take Tifara's analysis in this regard. Because even within Rastafari, the way you assess your situation, the way you assess your reality and decide your next move is to meditate, is to use herbs, is to fast, is to go within nature. None of this is new. These are, as you said, Maxine, these are practices from tens and thousands of years ago. So, you know, there's really it is a form of perfection when we think of it. But I wanted to ask Naal because I'm often faced with the very real reality of what Kristen said. The availability of good food, the knowledge of healthy food. But for me, I find that part of our problem is that we don't even know what food is. So we're looking for things that are not lost because we think food comes in a box, food comes in a plate. We don't understand that we step over our food every day, you know? So talk to us about that, Naal, in terms of the availability of healthy food and our perception that it is scarce or it is hard to come by.
Well, the whole idea, the whole idea that has been put upon us that healthy food, or the proper food or clean food is hard to come by. That's really not true. As I said, we walk over natural food every day. When I say natural, I'm not meaning in the sense of the word of how they used to sell things. No, I'm talking about something that is highly electrical, that is made by the creating force, that's made by the Almighty that gave life to all things, animal life, plant life, be it aquatic or terrestrial, meaning on land. We have a lot of food around us, and I can speak of here in Jamaica. We are we are we're highly blessed, and we're highly fortunate to have food around us at any given point in the year. And with this land, that it has been said or is said that we have over 60% of the world's healing herbs. We also have a lot of, and by the way, food include herbs because herbs are food, and food by definition should be a substance that nourishes your body on a cellular level. So we have a lot of food around us, a lot of food at any given point in the year. I mean, we have our Ethiopian apple. We have rose apple for people who are familiar with rose apple that probably grew up in the country and they're near a river. We have watercress that's growing by the river. That's a natural green. All right. We have what they call it no fancy name amaranth, but it's callaloo. We have a lot of wild callaloo growing around the place. We have a lot of wild, we call it wild, but it is natural and native. We have a lot of tomatoes that just grows wild. Nobody plant them there. They're just a part of the natural flora
But Naal,
of the
Naal, not
land.
to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Mhm.
I really want to, you know, I really want to really honor the spirit in which Kristen gave her contribution. Because
Mhm.
if you're coming from a KFC, and again, we're kind of deviating a bit from Rasta.
Mhm.
But if you're coming from a
Um,
KFC mindset or a chicken and rice and peas full my belly mindset, and then
mhm.
Naal coming to tell me that watercress that grow in river is food. How do we wrap our minds around that? People don't even think fruit is food. So is it that, as Maxine said, we need to re-educate people about what the founding principles are? Because people don't register those
Yes.
things as food.
Yeah, those are just, and you're rightly so, and those are just a few stuff that I mentioned. But like I said earlier on, when you're not sure, and if you want to be on a certain path, if you want to be on a certain path, if you want to be aware of anything that you're interested in, and say you want to make that change, even some of us will go cold turkey, some of us have to do the whole transition thing. But you would start to, seek, ask questions, but that is the best way to go about it. Ask questions. Go and check with people, follow people that are on and in that path and have been in that path, and you double check what they say as well, just to reinforce the information and the idea of what they're saying. So what you're saying, I mean, somebody coming from the whole KFC and all the word, the jerk and all of that, for them to transition to on the spot. Arm yourself with the necessary information, and the information is out there. Just look, if you mention, if you we have information now at our fingertips, right in our phone. You could be in the bush somewhere, you have signal. You can type in, I mean, vegan, you know, information about plant-based diet, information about vegan, if one wants to go to that. But the information is there, and the information is what will set you on a path that you can be more in line to where you want to go, because it's the information is really there, and people thinking that that natural food is not available has to do a lot with their lack of awareness of what is in and around their environment. Because I mean, as you rightly say, Kisha, people don't consider fruit as being food, and that also has to do with a lack of awareness. And as I said, re-education has to take place, where people need to be informed about what food really and truly is, especially for the melanated man and woman, the black man and the black woman. Our food is different and has to be different. So the information has to be seek out. 'Cause I had to do that, and I'm sure you yourself have to do that. Kush have to do that, and everybody else that is on that path. All of us didn't grow up into that path. All of us were eating meat at some point in time and all that, but we made the transition. And you had to do your due diligence to seek the information. You had to, go to people or follow people that have already been on that path, and you also research what they have said as well, just to reinforce the point and enlighten yourself more, and broaden your awareness and your consciousness as it relates to, I mean, the food that we're supposed to be eating, namely, plant-based. But a lot of, I don't know, go back to what I was saying earlier on, there are a lot of free food about the place. And I always mention stuff like that. We have a whole lot of free food, but we just don't know that these things are food. And that is why I always try to share the information that I get, and tell people to go and look it up. The name of these stuff. I will walk past it every day. We have a lot of food. A lot of food, a whole heap of food. And there's every point during the course of the year, we always have something in bloom. We always have something bearing. Whether that be mango, whether that be guinea, we have tamarind, we have apples, there's a lot of stuff around, star apples. There's a lot of stuff that we have around, and even with the greens probably be a little bit more tricky and challenging for some people, because to the untrained mind everything looks green. But when you are aware of what it is, then you can pick these things out. You won't mistake them for anything else. You don't have to worry about thinking that you're probably going to poison yourself. But it's just the information. It's just,
And then them say you're mad.
yeah, 'cause people. I mean, people have I've been there get in out and getting picking stuff and cutting people, and people are really interested. Stop myself. What are you pick? Or what I said. this is that and that is, they give them the name, then go and research it themselves. So,
Okay, thanks for
pass the
that,
information
Nahal.
on. Mhm.
Appreciate that.
I have a
So,
suggestion.
I want to. Sorry.
Now I have a suggestion.
Uh-huh.
Because Neil spoke about educating yourself. Um, and one of the things, because I'm gonna say I'm still new to this, and one of the difference I saw with myself and others was that I was hungry for the knowledge. Um, so I did the research. Um, but in getting the knowledge, I'm gonna be very honest with you, I was not always eager to share. Again, because I didn't have the patience for persons that were at a different stage of the journey. And when Kristen spoke about communities, that's probably one of the things that we need to do. People are at different level of readiness. I find that I find it easier to, and I will share more with persons that are at a certain level of the journey. But Neil is open to all, and he will pique interest. And I think that if more of us are open to sharing, we will be able to reach more persons. Um, that is my view on it. But some persons, we don't readily share. Persons will have, for example, even you, Keisha, in terms of you sharing um, a particular lifestyle and how you have been able to heal. A lot of persons are not necessarily doing that. So people don't see the benefit of understanding how food really impacts everything that we do, even our thinking. Because once you start eating a particular way, you realize that how you think about a lot of things change. So I think if we have more communities, like we have now, if we have more of these spaces and people are willing to share, then we'll be able to reach more persons, those who are seeking, and piquing the interest of others who eventually, because once you pique their interest, they're watching. They may seem opposed to it, but they're watching you to see. um they're watching you, and eventually you'll find that more persons will come over and the change will start.
Okay, thanks for that, Dacia. Very important point on community. I want to kind of narrow down the conversation a bit more to the specifics of, the Rasta movement and health. Um, because going back to what Kristen said, and this idea of what food is, I'm wondering if we also, members of the non-Rasta, the people who are not members of the Rastafari community, because truthfully, a lot of what we see as vegan food now, Tifara mentioned earlier that tofu and veggie chunks is not really Rasta, is a representation of the degeneration and infiltration of Rasta. But a lot of what we see in terms of these kinds of food, to my mind, is representative of the demands that have been made on ital food to resemble regular food. In other words, a man coming from him chicken and rice and peas life, and him say him want stop eat chicken. He goes to the Rasta man and is saying, I want something in my plate that is not meat but looks like meat. Well, the Rasta man have to eat like everybody else. I mean, we can discuss it. We can discuss it and whether Rasta is participating in
Very good point.
capitalism to his detriment. But the fact is, a lot of what we see in terms of the declining health of Rasta is because the Rastafari places that provide food have been pressured to deviate from what a Naal said. So instead of serving you a bowl of steamed watercress with some nice cherry tomato and avocado salad, people don't want that. And I can tell you from experience, people don't want that. People want something that's going to put them in the mood of their quote unquote Sunday dinner. And so, what does the Rasta man continue to be an outcast and can't get tools to farm, can't get things to build his home, or does he compromise? Does he evolve? And in that so-called evolution, which is really degeneration, this is the root of a lot of the health issues. Because the only thing that can taste like chicken is chunks. Kush, you want to respond? And then Tifara, I'd love to hear your views as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's the degeneration of a movement, or the result of of infiltration of a movement. Um, I take this very very seriously. I think me and Keisha was reasoning about this a few days ago, several days ago, about we as a people admitting to our fears. And it's very important. I've been thinking about it. It's extremely important that we admit to our fears. And when we admit to our fears, it doesn't allow us to run like headless chicken, when we know what our fear is. Now, the Rastafari movement, a lot of the ones them had a lot of fears, and we didn't want to admit it. We want to act like we were powerful when we were very fearful, you know? So not only did the mass of the people were coming to us and telling Rasta what to prepare, but the most of the people was really coming to us for health. So they were coming to us, say, boy, Rasta man, I can't get something where look like or taste like nice like my chicken, or nice like this. The Rasta had the power, the stands there to tell them about phony or teff, tell them about mushrooms grows all over Africa, different grains and stuff that grows that we could be eating that is very tasty, and we could be turning into different things. But of course, we were fearful of not being able to feed our kids. Rasta was fearful that um, being an outcast for too long will get you into more problem. Which if you're outcast of society, society is going to come down on you. This is simple logics from your choose to be an outcast in our society, that society is going to come down on you. We have Carol Garden incident and a lot of other incidents to showcase this. And a lot of Rasta was becoming fearful, as Profi would say, and we threw away ITAL, the ITAL limited IFL philosophy. And it could have we start to part away from the essence of the movement, which again is black liberation. Underneath that heading, everything fall underneath black liberation. Once we stayed in that, we would be studying, and we would know that we can get teff from Ethiopia, we can get fonia from all over West Africa, we can get a lot of grains, we can cook with shea. We have other herbs that we can trade throughout the Caribbean and throughout Africa, but it would keep our mind set on um, a revolutionary stand and a revolutionary move. So instead of chunks or mints, we would we would not only fly to Africa and come back with nice clothes. We will come back with fonio and teff, and instead of importing chunks and mints, But we didn't want to admit to our fears, and we didn't want to admit to our humanity as a people. We've been beaten down for so long. We've been told that we're backward and foolish for thinking that Africa is the all and all, and we need a black God and a black this and black. We were taught that we were foolish for that, and everything under that starts to crumble. So more advanced people start to step in. Seventh Day Adventists gave us food to eat, our tofu, our chunks. meat substitute, you know. So I think once we start to, and of course I do agree, how to fight this is that we have to have more communal reasoning, because we do not own the airwaves. We do not own the signs on the road. Everything our phone keep telling us to either eat vegan or eat regular food. The signs on the road, the newspaper, everything is telling us that. So we have to have communal reasoning amongst ourselves again, like what we used to have. And go back to ITIL. What ITIL means, ITIL means natural. So we wouldn't need, if we stick to that, then we will always travel that route. ITIL mean natural. Oh, Dr. Savy say, um, corn is not natural. Oh, okay, then that makes sense because we are Rasta and we believe in ital and we believe in natural. It would be so easy to connect the dots, but we start to be infiltrated, start to lose the core essence of what Rasta is till it reach only food, it reach only clothes. um, so yeah, we need more communal reasoning, and then we will get, because we know what food is. We know what it is. It is natural food. What is natural food? Then that is something we can reason amongst ourselves, and define it. But the information is already there. We just need to start to reason amongst ourselves again.
Tifara, what are your thoughts on that? Did people pressure the Rasta man and Rasta woman business to throw away with the foundational principles and incorporate unnatural food?
Yeah. Well,
Not you, Kush,
sorry.
not you. I'm putting the question to Tifara.
Hel- Hello?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
You there?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I agree. I agree with what Kush was saying, and I think he echoed a lot of what I was saying before about there being a fear in Rastafari to be ourselves and not be like the other people and not try to, you know, copy their lifestyle or do something like them, and be the way that Rastafari was meant to be. And again, maybe it's because of the trauma and all of the things that Rastafari has experienced.
You muted yourself, Tifara. Not hearing you.
Ah, sorry about that. Yes, so maybe it is because of that fear that Rastafari is trying to copy, you know, the system that is set by our oppressors, why we're not trying to be ourselves and return to ourselves and copy what is African and what is truly for us. um yeah, I think I agree again also that a lot of people are coming to Rastafari and asking for meals that look like they're, as you said, they're Sunday dinners. They want it, the chicken to, they want something that can copy chicken. They want something that can taste like them rice and peas. They want everything. And if it is not, it is not good. It is not good ital food if it is not copying that. Right? And I think that is the struggle in Rastafari and food, is that we've somehow lost the knowledge because it's not like it is not there. The knowledge was there, but we've somehow lost it, and now trying to copy what they say is food. It's just like how we try to make Jesus black. You know what I mean? It's very similar to me what we've been doing with food as well. We're trying to not be like them but kind of like them. Trying to take what they have and remixing it for ourselves when we should really just be doing away with it completely. And going back to as again who we are and what is meant for us. And I agree that what Dr. Sebi has put forward in the African biomineral balance is really what we should be looking towards. And I remember when Dr. Sebi came to Jamaica in 20, was it 2013 when he was here, and I was there. I went to, and at the time I wasn't even, I didn't even have the awareness of how huge Dr. Sebi was. It wasn't even, I appreciated him because I made the effort to go. I was there. So I had some appreciation, but now looking back, I don't even think that I truly understood what it meant to actually be in that space. But I don't remember there being this large turnout, and I thought that there would be just thousands of Rastafari there, because this man is as close to what we should think Ital is. So I was surprised that that wasn't even the case. So again, I don't know. Well, it's infiltration. We know what has happened to Rastafari. It's the infiltration, and it's not only the loss of community, but it's also the loss of family and the unity between black men and black women. And because the family aspect, that's important, you understand, because we should be in homes together, cooking and preparing our foods together, growing our foods together, right? So the family isn't even there anymore, and a lot of men in Rastafari, as you know, are going out of community to find their wives. I don't know if you maybe want to call them passport bros, but a lot of them are leaving Jamaica looking to white women. A lot of them are looking to white women too. And I don't mean to go off topic, but this is important. A lot of them are going out of community for wives and looking for a woman who is going to give them, a white woman who's going to give them a step up. So there is no commitment by the black man in Rastafari. There is no commitment to family. There is no commitment to community. And we see it even, I don't mean to use them as an example, but the truth is that we put them on pedestal. So we have to talk about entertainers, right? But I mean, they're no good example, but it's who people are seeing outside of community, who people see to be Rastafari. They're representations of Rastafari, whether we like it or not, But a lot of them don't live and aren't true to what Rastafari is. And, who they choose to partner with is completely, you know, out of the realms of Rastafari. Well, and Jesse Royal, for example, I mean, I think his first child's mother was from Eritrea, but his second child's mother, who he's with now, I mean, nice girl, but she's not Rastafari. And I'm just saying, how is she raising his children as a Rasta man? Is she raising them ital? Cause me know say she eat meat. I'm sure. Say she eat chicken. I'm sure she's not health conscious. You understand? So it's these choices that are taking place within Rastafari. So it's not just the community, but we have to look at family as well. How are we building family?
Thanks for that, Tifara. I wanted to comment on something that was said earlier regarding, the pressure that comes on to Rasta to conform to create certain foods. But it would be very remiss of us and naive of us to not discuss the anti-blackness that groups like Rastafari face, because yes, we can critique the degeneration of the meals and the move away from certain practices and principles when it comes to food. But the fact is, a lot of Rasta spicer, chef, whatever you want to call it, have been created. A lot of these natural wild foods that Naal mentioned, but nobody acknowledges it unless a white YouTuber does it. So you will have a Rasta in their Ital restaurant creating nice salads, wild food, even fonia, raw food, and it doesn't develop steam or it doesn't have any legitimacy unless a Caucasian does it, unless a non-Jamaican does it. The raw food movement, I mean, Rasta has been eating fresh off the tree from the bead, what them call them, Kush? The bird beak Rastas, which is way, 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 way back from before my father time. None of these things are new. So there is also an issue with appropriation, that a lot of the things that you see are being credited to others are things that our Rasta has done before, but no one pays Rasta any mind when they do these things. You see? So it's a very, very important thing that we don't get too naive and don't understand what not having power means. When you are powerless, people take things from you. People change the narrative. People utilize their power to strong arm you. Maxine spoke about this idea of how we approach the contamination of the soil and the seeds, but there's also contamination of our image. So I don't know, we're coming to almost 2.5 hours now. So what I'm gonna ask is that everyone give their final thoughts. I know it's Sunday evening and we need to wrap up. So Naal, did you want to start giving your final thoughts?
Okay. Well, all information and everyone that has contributed to this forum. I like all the information that is put forth and everything. But my final thought and my parting, you know, contribution is that arm ourselves with information. Information is at the core of our existence, and anything that we want to partake of to strengthen um, information. We need the proper information in order to make sure that you know, we are on the right path and doing the right thing. And when we get the information, put it into practice, not just have it there, and also share it, share the information so that others who want to be on the path, and just for a general awareness, because even if someone is not going to partake of it, I'm sure they're going to probably hear it again. And it is the repetition of this information which will really infiltrate. And if I want to use the word infiltrate here, but if I'm going to infiltrate, I need to infiltrate people and influence people to do the proper thing or the correct thing that will enable us, as not just as Rastafari, but as melanated man and woman, as the black family, to strengthen us, to propel us to that next level that we should be. And, you know, just for us to be what we're supposed to be, and live, with utmost vitality and longevity. Uh, so that is my parting words.
Thanks so much for Naal, and for all those who are interested in learning more about herbs and wild food. Naalia, who is probably our national treasure, or unhailed national treasure in that regard. So I
Mm.
hope we can make connections with Naal as he has a wealth of knowledge in the area of herbs and plant food.
Thank you. And
Maxine, would you like
I'm
to?
always willing to run my mouth. So when it comes to that.
He's always willing to teach. Yes. Maxine,
Mm,
please,
mm.
what are your
Yeah.
final thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, I definitely would be interested in the expertise of our brother here because I'm very much into herbs and all of that myself. So looking for connections in terms of that. Um, when you talk about health, I'm really a lot of times I look at it's the spirit, mind, and body complex is how I approach the whole issue of health because we're such an integrated system, and a lot of times when I work with people who are having quote unquote health issues, I talk and hear a lot of that in this tonight. Uh, People talking about the consciousness, the psyche, how you're making your choices, what is your mental state is in the making of your choices, and dealing with your philosophy, your fundamental beliefs, your original belief of self, and how you are reflecting in the world, and how that's the thoughts, your cognitive, your mind process is leading you to make choices because we all have free will. And it's not about judgment on anyone because none of us can make another person do anything because that is our fundamental Rasta philosophy. Don't try to be no Babylon for me, fair run and rule and tell me what me have to do. Okay? So the choices that we are making from within ourselves manifesting externally in how we deal with our first line of defense and well-being in terms of our food. In terms of our food is something that we have to pay attention to, especially in these critical times. So you must arm yourself with knowledge because knowledge is power, right? We're no longer in a position where ignorance is not bliss. Being ignorant can cost you and your family, your children, a continuous state of well being, and in some cases, some really detrimental outcomes. So I see for us, again, I'm going to take the broad stroke approach as something that we need to approach as melanated people. This understanding that our foundation, okay, and when I use the word vegan, I'm just talking about dealing with the foods of the earth. I'm not speaking about any of the adulterated stuff because I really don't eat that. I don't eat bread. If I want to make something, I go get my banana and so on, do what I have to do. But bottom line, in terms of wellness, in terms of our health, is to be mindful, be clear about what's going on in our immediate environment and how the world is pushing in on us, right? Trying to force us to make choices that they want us to do. And then being astutely aware, network with others of like minds in order to be able to solidify your foundation. Join arms with others who are aware or as aware of yourself and learn. Each one teach one. What you know, share it with others because we have to live as a community. Okay? No one can be an island anymore. Okay? If you want to survive and flourish. And again, part of what I see as the degeneration of health in Rasta, and really as a people, when you talk about communalism, is that prosperity is not about money or any objects. Prosperity is about how you commune with nature, yourself, and those around you. That's all I can share as a baseline fundamental thing to path to walk. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Maxine. Really enjoyed your contributions this evening. Dacia, any parting words for us?
Thank you.
Sorry, I just jumped. My phone died, so I just got back on. So I'm so sorry I missed Maxine. But I think we have, for the most part, agreed on the way forward in terms of networking, which is forming a community, supporting each other, sharing, and I think that will definitely strengthen um, the message, because if you have many persons saying the same thing, you have a community that will be, you can get support from, and you learn from the correct thing from, I should say, then that will definitely strengthen the movement.
Thank you so much for that, Dacia. Appreciate you. Kush, are you there, Kush? There's been a lot of talk about strengthening the community, educating each other. Is Rasta open to hearing the views about health and food from non-Rasta? Sebi was for a large portion of his life and his teachings. It was rejected by Rasta. Um,
Mm.
and there's a lot of talk even in this forum about us sharing information and building communities. But is Rasta open to that? And then you can just add your final thoughts for the evening.
I give thanks, Kish. Um, oh yeah, before I go into that, definitely give thanks to this platform. I think it's very important that we have different platforms where we can discuss different issues within the African community. So definitely give thanks to this. Hopefully get bigger as well. All right, the the Rastafari movement, as you pointed out a few minutes ago, there is other ones on ones in there that are preparing meals or having philosophy that is still in line with the Pan African movement, which is what Rasta is in essential liberation of black people and African people in general. Now, Rasta is very, very political. It's a very political movement as well, because the lifestyle goes against the set society. Um, but we have the movement has also gotten infiltrated, and also a lot of Rastas trying to soothe or connect to society as close as possible so them can, again, feed them children what they might be afraid of or whatever. But the majority or the core essence of Rasta still connects with the people and still connects with the Pan African essence, still connects with Dr. Sebi, still open to the philosophy. Country Farmhouse, where is supposed to be or is the soy factory, that's where I first learned about Dr. Sebi. That's where I first, that's the only place I see Dr. Sebi playing. So Rastafari in his essence is still open to the black liberation, right? It's just that we need more of these things. More, as you said, community reasoning, community sharing of information. But Rastafari is still open to that. Very much open to that. We just need to get back to the essence. Reach out to the ones and ones that are still here. With even outside Rasta, cause Rasta, I don't have no interest in this Rasta world nonsense. Rasta is for Africa. We are as um Buju Banton say, Rasta liberate the people, and it's not liberate the people into Rastafarian. Rastafarianism is liberate the people into themselves, which is their greater self, their African self.
Well said, Kush. Well said. Christine, what are your final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts for me was that this was a much needed discussion. I have learned so much, and I do hope that we have more of these conversations. Final thoughts in relation to going forward. I would love. I think I saw someone in the chat speak about injera and maybe some classes cooking classes in relation to food. I think that would be a great starting point. You know, this re-education about what is food, and also introducing people to making maybe simple salads, how to make simple salad dressings or sauces, just as an introductory framework of getting people within the community to start eating a particular way, and continuing the dialogue and the discourse around that. And then, as you know, food is one of the things that, if you're looking at, for example, or quote unquote traditions, Christmas, Easter, all of these things that are there. We, whether or not we partake of them, whether we have rejected them along our journey, the fact remains that food is always at the center. So once we are now introducing a different way of doing things, I think a part of the conversation starts with sitting down and breaking bread around this discourse of food. So those are my 2 cents. I would definitely love the cooking classes, but this has been a wonderful reasoning, and I thank you guys for having the space and creating the platform for us to do that, to share. And I do look forward to continuing this conversation, however it may evolve and change.
Thank you so much, Christine. Really appreciate that. Kush, you here? You need to line up some classes. People are in need. Tifara, let us have your final thoughts, please, sis.
Yes, my final thoughts. Well, I just want to say it. I agree with everything that was said before. I agree with everything that everybody is saying. Yes, we need community. Yes, we need to arm ourselves with knowledge. And I also think that we need to hold ourselves accountable as well, and make sure that we are doing the work that we need to do to be where we want to be. And I mean, even if it is not in Rastafari, making sure that we are authentically who we say we are, and our life is a reflection of that. And it is reflected in our food, and our effort to eat what we know is right, and go back to the ancient ways. Um, that's it. Those are my final thoughts. And thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for inviting me as well. I enjoyed it. And I look forward to more conversations like this. And I look forward to that Injera class as well. Yeah, I've been struggling with, there are certain things that um, we know that we should be eating, but we're not used to them, and so we don't know how to prepare them. That's the truth. We know how to make some flour dumplings, but I don't know how to make injera. I don't know how exactly to cook millets. Um, I've just been going by trial and error. I've made fonio before, and it didn't come out bad. So with some of these foods that we're not really so used to, want to learn how to prepare them. Eating other wild foods that are here is much we can get some watercress and make a salad with some, like Makeda was saying before, with some cherry tomatoes, and mix up some lime and olive oil and so on, or coconut oil, and so, but certain other things I would love to learn, so I look forward to that.
Thank you so much for that, Tifara. Thank you, everyone who came up on stage. Thanks for those who were in the room listening. And I just want to leave us in the spirit of solutions and in the spirit of going forward with a very short quote from none other than Marcus Messiah Garvey himself. There shall be no solution to the race problem until you yourselves strike the blow for liberty. There shall be no solution to this race problem until you yourselves strike the blow for liberty. So there you have it, folks. We need to be accountable for self, for our families, for our community, for our actions, for what we share, for the knowledge we maintain, protect, and improve within ourselves. So it's a call to all of us to take action wherever we are with whatever we have, no matter how small. Iron sharpens iron, and we can take whatever groundings we have from our brothers and our sisters, and we can make changes within our community and by extension the Pan-African family. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great evening. I'll be back next week with another interesting topic. This has been The Declining Health of Rastafari by the Truth Gangsters. Blessings.
Okay.